don't we?
Uh, geez, yeah. All right. I think there we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, we are coming to you live. And actually live on a recording which we have control of. So,
Yes.
welcome to the show, Rob. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Todd. Hanging in there. Lots of travel over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm not doing as much as you, but I leave for Honolulu tomorrow morning. But we can talk about that in a minute. But I tell you, we've been busy. You know, we're out at Digital Hollywood, and we had a great lineup, great group of panelists, not a panelist, but great group of folks on our New Media Show. And it's been a week, and we have yet to get the video back. So at some point, there's going to be a bonus New Media Show. But I'm just about done doing live events unless organizers agree to give us the video the very same day. This is just becoming an ongoing issue that I'm very frustrated about.
Yeah, I mean there's no rational reason why it has to be that way. So it's just, doing the little extra work that it takes to get it out. And I know that there was a couple of issues with other podcasters that did their live shows at the event that are struggling to get.
Yeah, they're still still waiting, you know, and it's not good. But it was great. It was fantastic. You know, I mean, we had a great session, and we had the new CEO of Podcast One. We had Tyler from
Warner Media.
And then Kathy Doyle from Macmillan. It was fantastic. So for those of you, if you're watching today, any of those guests are watching today, we are waiting to get the content.
Yeah.
It almost feels like we're not going to get it. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, is it on replay though? I wonder. I haven't gone to look. I've been on the road, so
yeah, I need to. I don't know where to find it, so I guess we'll have to look and see if it's somewhere where I can score it. So, hey, if you're on Facebook, make sure you say hello. And of course, we're on a variety of places today streaming. So anyway, it's thanks for being here. Yeah, Rob's having challenges with his light. He's got the poltergeist thing going on right now with the light coming from underneath.
The poltergeist thing, right?
Oh,
there you go.
Your actually video is froze on my side.
Here, let me log out and log back in again.
Okay, so Rob's got to call back in. But yeah, so he went like. So we'll see if all right. See if you're live this time. Yes, you're moving.
Yes, I'm moving.
So anyway, everyone
frozen in time.
Yeah. So lots have been going on. I mean, just holy cow, it's been busy. We launched a bunch of stuff, and two things. Our Blueberry Pro production service launched, and really got some good feedback and good response to that. So it's a dedicated team of people that will work with you to produce your podcast. And then our podcast network plugin launched too. So,
wow.
Yeah, coming down the end of the year, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in the pipeline yet. So the devs are cranking. And so what about you guys? You guys got stuff going on too, or is it just the normal roll?
It's mostly the normal role. I mean, we're working behind the scenes on Libsyn 5, so that's coming. So it's going to be a big kind of rollout of some improvements. So that's what we need to do. So it's awesome.
Yeah, we don't call ours Libsyn 5 or Blueberry 5.
It just rolls out features. Right?
Yeah, we roll out features, and our UI UX stuff is continuing to roll out. Matter of fact, by the end of the year, PowerPress will be completely transformed, and then our websites are fast approaching, and the UI UX team is working. So we're pretty excited about that. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Anyway, lots of stuff going on in the podcasting space. I don't know where should we even start.
I know we've been out of the pocket for a while, and it's really too bad that episode from Digital Hollywood didn't make it out.
Yeah,
there's really some interesting combinations of perspectives on that program.
A lot of good
yeah, right.
A lot of good juicy stuff. But I guess we can start with Acast having launching their own a free version of their service, and I had to laugh because they called themselves the world's biggest podcast company.
Really?
Yes, in their press release, they said Acast, the world's biggest podcast company.
Wow. Okay.
That's a big claim.
That's a big claim.
Yeah.
That's a big claim.
Big claim. I called them out on Twitter. They didn't respond, of course. So
what's the metric that they use to say that they were the biggest? I guess that's the big question.
Well,
right?
They don't call out their metric. They and here's the funny thing. It's I know that they're not biggest by shows. They're not biggest by number of hosting accounts. They're not the biggest by number of downloads. So how can they make a false claim like that? I guess because they join with Pippa and they seem to think that gives them a bigger number than anyone else. Anyway,
I would question that.
I guess I'll start putting that in my press releases.
Well, with what's going on in the medium, it's been going on for a long time, is that there hasn't been like one central trustable resource to talk about scale in this industry, right? We're all like stray cats running off different directions, making claims about ourselves without any kind of reference to the broader industry.
Right.
And I think that's a big, I mean, if you look into the future, that's kind of a big problem, right? I mean, if we're not all looking at the space in the same way, people can make exaggerated claims. And I guess at the end of the day, we're in an era of, facts being a little bit on the lacking side,
construed side. And I had seen some study that came out, and they listed biggest hosts by RSS feeds, and I was like, immediately I sent them an email, said, hey, you can't measure host size by RSS feed. And I got this reply, why not? And I'm like, because you've got us and Simplecast and other folks where people are hosting where the RSS feed's on their .com, and you have to look at the media file, and I got this, kind of this response back like, thank you for educating us in the space, but we're going to do it our way. So it just, it just shows you a lack of
that's that straight cat syndrome.
Lack of knowledge too. So everyone's so fast now to put out facts about what they feel are, like pre-rolls being more effective than mid-rolls. Hey, come on.
Right.
So that's just someone trying to boost their, boost their CPM rates for pre-rolls is what that, what it sounds like to me. So.
Yeah. Honesty in business is pretty much out the window now. It's safe to say.
But I will say that this ongoing theme of gatekeepers is starting to creep up. We're seeing a increase of shows being signed exclusively to certain platforms. Specifically, Spotify is making a big push. So, it does concern me that we have the haves and the have. There's always been a certain extent of that, but when you say that there's certain content exclusively only available on Luminary, or exclusively only available on Spotify, or exclusively only available here, that starts, that I don't think that it's a good strategy for those podcasters because they're getting a big check, I would assume.
Yeah, I think it's been around the medium for a long time. It's just, I think it's starting to become a little bit more accepted. I did a similar deal. I have to be honest. I did a similar deal when I was working at Zune on a piece of content on a podcast out of the Smodcast network. Paid them to be on our platform only, and just played that game a little bit. I mean, it is a typical game that larger media companies play with content. They think that they can use content as a driver to drive, growth in their platform. I do think that in the long run and in this particular medium, I think it's not something that's very effective. And I think at the end of the day, that's what's going to limit this, is that the strategy of being everywhere is much better than a strategy of being in just one place.
Yeah.
The podcaster is not going to benefit in the long run from exclusivity, because that's just not how audiences are built in this medium. Now, granted, things could change on that. I mean, that has been the case with other media, that there has been models built on that principle, but the internet really broke that. So in some ways, we're kind of going against what the power of the internet is, by doing this exclusive stuff, and it may, Todd, just be just a short window of time that we see this bump up in activity like this, as the world finds out that it really doesn't work that well.
And of course, Luminaries didn't reduce their price for $3.99 or something like that for Black Friday. It's indication that maybe they're, everyone's running Black Friday stuff, even we are. So maybe it's just a Black Friday special. But they've been in the news a lot recently about is their model sustainable? Hey, real quickly, I want to say hello to Rick, Scott, Dimitri, and Jeremy that are in that said hello in Facebook. Thanks for being online and watching today.
Yeah.
So
thanks for joining us.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see where this ultimately goes. Mike and I were talking. I had a 3-hour car drive back from Columbus this week, and we're talking about podcasters themselves and what we continue to see. And I'm just, he's just like the bar at this point to entry is nothing. So we see everybody jumping in, and the people needing an incredible amount of hand-holding. I mean, an incredible amount of hand-holding. And that, it is what it is.
Well, and that's what's driving this trend that we're seeing around simplification, right?
Yeah.
Of publishing. But I think we all know, Todd, you and I both know that simplification doesn't drive quality content. So, in consistent production of content, it actually that level of challenge tends to produce better content. And so I think that there's, granted, we want people come into the medium and try it out and see if it's for them. And I think that's what we're seeing happen here, is that these free platforms and the simplification, extreme simplification, is driving a lot of people coming in, kicking the tires and podcasting and see if it's for them.
Yeah.
And so I think that maybe is a benefit in the long run for the medium, as easy access is probably a good thing. And then, what typically we're seeing is that those folks grow up and they move on to more professional publishing platforms. And that may be, good for the ecosystem. I don't know, Todd, are you seeing that as well?
Well, I'm also seeing not necessarily, what I'm seeing is, I believe that, we don't get as many that trickle off those systems. I guess collectively we probably get quite a few. I just see what numbers come into us. But I think that, I'm also looking at what's going on with pro hosts, with pro podcasters. Right. And there's a lot of people looking for that content, trying to entice them. And what I'm finding is on pro side is I have people leaving 2-3 months, and then they figured out the grass wasn't greener on the other side of the fence, and the promises that they were promised weren't delivered, and then I'm pulling them back.
Right.
And so now I'm like on pro accounts, I'm just saying, just deactivate them. Let's just leave it cold until they come back. And if they don't come back after 90 days, we've lost them. But, I had one that left and came back within 3 days, right. So it's.
Yeah. On the pro side, I think it's a completely different conversation. And what we're seeing right now is platforms are starting to get pretty aggressive, going after shows and offering support functions and features and even upfront cash. Those things are happening out there, and I think we've been talking about this for a long time, Todd. That like we're saying is that we're seeing the convergence of these trends around hand-holding and support that are that are becoming bigger and bigger issues, and that support goes the full spectrum from getting started to being successful. And I think those that are looking to get successful, platforms are starting to say, well, we'll support you with getting promotion in Spotify and other places. We'll pay you a bonus for coming in and getting started with us. We'll give you free hosting. We'll give you social media support. We'll do all this kind of stuff, kind of like what networks have been doing for podcasts for a long time. And that was one of the big things that came out at one of my panels at the Digital Hollywood event. When I talked to all of the folks on the panel before the event, was they think that networks are going to be really where the future of this medium is. And if you look at beyond that a little bit, it's going to be networks of networks. So what we're going to see is consolidation of networks into bigger networks, which means that vertical genres of networks of content are going to combine together to create this network effect. And along with that is exactly what we're starting to see happen in the medium, where there's like these premium, like Spreaker Prime is a good example, right? Where they're Spreaker's going out looking for content, and they're offering this support package, and that's just what the market is asking for right now, and it's difficult for the host platforms to provide that, but it just feels like that's the direction that things are going.
In the same moment, though, it doesn't guarantee any success whatsoever for this additional help.
None of this guarantees success,
because then you get so many, then their spread thin. They're supporting how many different shows. So, I'm just at this point. I told it was a podcaster that's getting ready to launch, pretty big name, West Coast name, and I said, you've been dangled a carrot out here,
right?
And you need to redefine print. And I said, I'm here to advise you. I'm not trying to keep your business. You've obviously found something, but I am trying to advise them. I'm just telling them, read and ask a lot of questions, because when you have a big show and they're looking at having a bandwidth bill, that scares them sometimes. So
it does, right?
But at the same point, they're giving up a lot. As a matter of fact, I heard that one network was taking 60% of ad revenue, and I'm like, oh my God.
Todd, if you're going to offer those kind of support services, and
you have to take that much.
Yeah, right.
The cost of doing it. Yeah,
right. That's the trade-off. If you want to get support, you're going to have to give up some of your revenue to pay for that.
Yeah.
But I think that where we are right now is people are just throwing money at the wall here, trying to get scale, right? Yeah.
No, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get scale and they're trying to get content.
Right. It's all the same, right? I mean, scale and supposedly top quality content, is the same in this medium. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting time in the medium right now. I mean, there's a lot of experimentation that's still going on in this medium. I mean, that if you really think about this medium and going back 15 years, that's what's grown this medium, is all this experimentation, people trying different things. Things work, things don't work, and what we also laugh at too, Todd, is how many of these things are tried over and over and over again, and is there a new outcome? It's like the transcription services, right? It feels like we're in a new era with that, but I've been following transcription services for 20 years, it seems like, around audio. So, and it's never worked in the past, but it seems like now that there's a new use for it, and it's on the platform side. But anyway, that's a separate conversation.
Lost my train of thought here. There was what was my train here? Oh my God. I guess it wasn't that important. So,
well, it'll come back to you.
Yeah, it'll come back, and it did come back with a fury. But I guess we'll just see. We'll see what happens here. And but I think that anyone that's running any type of show needs to be careful on, making a hasty decision to make a move. And I think the network things, we've recognized networks are becoming more powerful, and that's why we came out. Oh, and I was going to say, that's why we come out with our network plugin and getting big response on that. So, what I was going to say was, if you think about production, social, if you want help on that side, when we were looking at this as adding this as a business unit at Blueberry, this is not, if you want it done right, this is not a product for everyone, because you can't, you're going to have to be serious about doing a show, because people's time, people's time, and it is valuable. And when you when you want to hire a production team, and that's what they're doing with the product that we're offering. That's not a product that an average indie podcaster is probably going to be able to afford. But I think that what our thought is that when you have individuals that are professionals and don't have time, and they don't want to edit, they don't want to do all this stuff, they are willing to pay a premium to have that done, especially by a team that knows what the heck they're doing. So I think that, if I look at that from a cost perspective and what we're charging for that versus what people are being promised for free and moving to some of these networks, that's a big, big number every month.
Yeah.
It could be $1,000 a month worth of actual time that people are spending on people's shows. Mm-hmm. So those companies, if you're truly doing it right, let's say you're doing 4 episodes a month, it's taking you 10 hours to get a show out. And if you think about what people are being paid today in the space, and let's just use a number 25, let's say $25. That's $250 an episode for post-production help, booking, all this stuff. This is not Fiverr stuff where we're using a virtual assistant in some foreign country. These are real people working real jobs.
Right. Costs real money.
It costs real money. So where are these networks getting their help? Are they going overseas? Are they, do they have the pockets to, pay for this type of level of post-production support and social media and marketing and all the other things that go along with it? I'm questioning.
Todd, it's a question of what's the ROI, right? I've worked with a few content creators that are investing. They're investing in their show. They're maybe not covering all their costs from their business model, but they have ambitions that they will. So I think a certain amount of this is investment that's being made by certain content creators that are passionate about their genre and what they're trying to pursue with their career or with their personal brand, all this stuff. And at some point, if it doesn't work, they have to cut back. Right. And this is what I counsel most of the folks that I talk to about this, is that you're probably smarter to start off doing everything yourself first and get off the ground,
or a little bit
before you hire. Yeah, exactly. Before you hire a team, because one of the other things is that if you hire a team right out of the gate, there's going to be large parts of this that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to manage a team and work with a team, you're not going to be very good at that. So, and I've seen many celebrities, especially, that get into this where they go out and they hire like 3 or 4 people to work on different parts of their podcast, and at the end of the day, they don't know what the hell's going on.
But
they've never done it themselves, so they don't understand.
But at the same point, those shows won't go. Those shows will never launch. In that same instance, I think a lot of those shows will never get off the ground.
If they have a good team behind them and the talent is determined to get it done, it usually happens. It's just a matter of, when you look long term.
Yeah.
And when problems come up, let's say that they have to change hosts or they have to get with a new advertising agency or something like that, the talent just doesn't know how to navigate that because they've never been involved in it before.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And that's usually when they call me. And it's like, and it's like, can you help me with this?
Well, they call us too the same thing, and and they don't even know their passwords. But I think a right structured production plan, they will have all that in a one sheet with all their information. But I don't think a lot of companies provide one sheets of.
Well, it is. A lot of them should. All of them should do that. But the problem is that then you're, as a business, of a production business, you're giving over control of your account, right? You're saying, here, client, here's everything that you can take somewhere else. And that's one of the other things that these folks don't think about, is that, once you get going with these production services, they want to hold on to your business.
Yeah. And they want to try to lock you in as much as you can. Right. Yeah. Right. Well, I didn't build that.
Right. That's good.
So I guess we'll see, what happens here. But I think that, I'm old school, I really am. And
I am too. Yeah.
But I'm also a geek, and I also understand this stuff to an extent. I had a little problem on Geek News Central over the weekend. A plugin updated. I had some custom stuff done, and it jacked the page up. So I had to, call the guy that had made the custom changes. And said, "Hey, something broke. Go in and fix this." But I knew who to call to fix it, and so he's going to look at it Monday, and we'll figure out what's going on. But I think that most people just want to set it, forget it, and just create content. So we have to also consider, that lowest common denominator on knowledge level. So, but it's just it's not getting any better. It's the barrier to entry so low at this point where, that's why we've had to add support people.
Yeah.
To be frank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we are tapping into it. I haven't seen the latest numbers on growth in the medium. Are we, from a content and a listening perspective, I just haven't seen latest numbers. But
I haven't even run anything. I've been too buried to even think about it.
Right. But I do, out there in the world, out there, up in Canada. I was up in Canada a few weeks ago at the Vancouver Podcast Festival. I see a lot of excitement, enthusiasm out there for the medium. The days of me telling someone or explaining to someone what a podcast is are completely over with. It's not even a conversation I have anymore. Right. It's more about, what are you listening to, right? That's the conversation that's happening more and more. And it just makes me wonder if we are, Todd, going to have a hockey stick growth in this medium over the next couple of years.
We'll see, but it's interesting though that we start having to go back and reaffirm. There was a study done, according to Edison. They say that 54% of podcast listeners listen to independent podcasts every week.
Right, I'm not surprised.
I bet hello.
I'm surprised it's not higher actually.
That's what I wonder, because I'm looking at I'm looking at our numbers. I'm looking at not just this show, but my personal show. And I'm like, we're completely indie. So,
yeah.
But at the same time, we're definitely seeing a huge insurgence of, a lot of big name companies coming in the space that have maybe been here before, trying it again.
Well, and I think if you look at each individual platform, you look at Libsyn or Blueberry or any of these others, I think they tend to cater to a segment of the podcasting medium that maybe skews the numbers one way or the other to some degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It just feels like things must be growing faster than ever before right now, but I just haven't seen any numbers on it yet.
So don't forget the Podcast Movement 2020 and Podcast Evolution's pricing goes up on Cyber Monday, not down. So it's an interesting move.
Yeah, have you talked to Dan, Todd, about the Evolutions conference?
I have not.
Are you all set with it?
And I didn't even submit a session.
Yeah, I didn't either. Actually, I heard from Dan about that the last couple of days.
So
about us too, we didn't submit a session either.
Yeah, so. He wants advanced sessions, and I'm like, what do you want us to talk about? So
right. I did mention to Dan about doing the show live down there again.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can do that up on stage.
That'd be nice.
And if he has a live stage like he did in Orlando, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be there as well as Dave Jackson, so it's just going to be Dave Jackson and I.
I don't know how many I'm taking yet. I haven't decided. I thought I was maybe just take one, but maybe I'll end up taking two.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's probably going to be 1,000 people, my guess, or maybe a little less. Would be my speculation.
So what do you think about Spotify launching daily podcasts where there's a logarithmically driven podcast discovery playlist that promise an easy way to discover new shows? Have you played with Spotify? I don't play with Spotify that much.
Yeah, I haven't actually played with it.
Is anyone that's listening today, do they use Spotify? Are you getting are you actually testing their new playlist feature? Oh, Rob disconnected. I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I know I had a bandwidth freeze.
So
okay, the playlist, is it full episodes?
I think so. I think it's just some sort of curated playlist. And the question I was wondering is it weighted? Is it going to be weighted heavily or more with their exclusive shows, or is it going to be equally weighted across their entire network? I don't know. So
yeah, I did something similar to this on when I was working at Spreaker, on the Spreaker listening app. We had separate channels by genre,
right?
That would be updated automatically based on the publishing of new episodes. So it would be weighted towards individual programs based on the prioritization of the quality of content, how frequently it was updated, all this kind of stuff. So if you click in and played it, it would play like it was a radio station, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I there's a place for this. I mean, I think and this kind of plays into the other story that came out this past week about subscription data, and then also is podcasting replacing radio. I thought there was a little bit of an interesting article on that. This is all off of Pod News if you want.
So what was the situation on subscription?
Well, it looks like that that the U.S. Is dominating the world when it comes to podcast listening. I mean, I don't think that that's any big surprise to either one of us or most people listening to this program, but it does show some trends around people subscribing. This is data off of Pocket Casts. So, like in the UK, people listen to about 38% content coming out of the UK, and the rest of it's coming out of the US. So, and then in Australia, people are listening to 21% of content coming out of Australia. That's content that's published in Australia.
Yeah.
And then and it looks like in North America, about 91% of all subscribed to podcasts are coming from the US, and about 9% coming out of the UK. So you're seeing this imbalance of consumption of podcasts in other countries that are not being consumed in the US, but the US content is being consumed in all these other countries in a dominant way.
So Tom's in the chat room. Tom said it's full episodes. I haven't seen that it's weighted to their shows, but that's an N of 1.
Well, yeah, I think on the playlist thing with Spotify, unless you're going to do some sort of advanced segmenting of the content to play shorter clips from podcasts, that would be the only thing you could do. And I guess you have to make a decision. And I had to think about this when I was working on the Spreaker channels. Was some podcasts are like this one is 90 minutes long.
Right?
Do you want to have this program in a radio like playlist, or are you going to prioritize programs that are shorter, like maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes in lengths? You can have more turnover of content in the channel. So that's a little bit of the pressure that exists in these linear playback experiences. is if you think about radio is like typically programmed in 10-minute pieces, right? With commercials that are in between, or when they program the radio station, they typically are constantly changing out segments in the content every 10 minutes to hold people's attention, and that's kind of it. And if you think about music is like every 4 to 5 minutes, there's a new track playing.
Yeah.
So podcast is a little bit of a challenge because longer form content means that there's not as much turnover in the content in the linear experience, and that's one of the things that podcasting has a little bit of a struggle when it compares itself to the typical listening experience for radio.
He goes on to say some of that is supply, not demand, for sure. So.
Right. It's how frequently those episodes are being updated. Yep. If they're daily, then you can have this churn of new content coming into that linear experience. But if they're coming out weekly, are you going to put weekly podcasts into a linear experience? Mm-hmm. Which means that episode's going to play like just once a week, and is it going to be in rotation for how long? And you're dealing with a lot of complex issues when it comes to the differences between linear experiences and podcasting.
So, we're still trying to make the switch to go to pass-through over on Spotify, but the challenge we're running into is that, and you guys have already determined it as well, is that there's, I think we had like 1,200 shows that were producing M4A. So
that's a problem.
It's a problem, and they can't take M4A. So, we're having to build a
transcoder, right?
Yep. And this is going to cause an issue because what's going to happen is that will show up in our stats as an MP3. So they're going to have a listing for the M4A and they're going to have a listing for the MP3, which should be completely Spotify. Right. But we keep telling podcasters, and this is, if you're podcasting and you're producing an M4A and you're on a host that is not on pass-through yet with Spotify will not. One M4A file will cause an entire program to drop. If they see one M4A file they'll take the showdown. Right. So the system
because it breaks their system.
It breaks.
It creates a non-play experience.
Yeah. Right. And then we've got the added confusion because they came back to us and said, well, here's 1,200 shows, or actually it was more than that. It was like 2,200 shows that are, and we're like, those didn't get submitted through our platform. They came in after you guys made your new system. So, we can't control those 2,200 shows that came in direct to you. You can't put those on pass-through because I can't do anything about transcoding those because you've got the ingest.
Right.
Here's the secret. A lot of people don't know. It was so complicated in the early days of Spotify. We actually had to create a hidden feed that
just for them,
to feed their system. And
I mean, lots of hosting platforms had to do it. We had to do it when I was with Spreaker as well. We had to do the same thing.
So those hidden feeds, I can re-encode the M4A and change the MP3 and their show stays online. No issue.
Right.
But those shows that submitted directly through the Spotify submission platform, that is the original feed. I can't change anything in that. I can't fix it. So we've had to go back and say, listen, you need to trigger. We're telling them what to trigger off of because we can tell if it isn't we've got this special URL. I don't even want to make it public to say what it is because then people will, but we've got this special URL that feeds Spotify that's buried. And, it's a pain, total pain.
Yeah. And the whole pass through or caching that Spotify was doing was breaking all the monetization models too. Right. So especially if you're involved in dynamic ad insertion, which you're rolling out dynamic ad insertion. So it makes sense that you're going to want to have pass through.
And actually you can't rebuild M4A. So you can only do ad insertion on MP3. So, we've had some clients come in and sign up for ad insertion. I'm like, hey, you can't, you have to go to MP3.
Right.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, this is the way it is. I can't work around some of the limitations of licensing and other stuff.
Right. And what all these dynamic insertion engines work with and how they work. I mean, you have to fit within that. I don't know that there's any significant advantage to being M4A, actually. I mean,
well, some people say the quality's better.
Well, okay. Yeah. We're listening on these little things, right? That quality is probably not even noticeable.
So, so I know, what are you guys, I'm kind of curious though, because I'm excited to look at this numbers too. What are you seeing in deltas now that you guys have went to pass through? So how are the Spotify numbers compared to your IAB process stat?
It's, I don't know that I've seen a direct comparison yet. My speculation would be that it's going to be probably lower because I think we have the IAB podcast guidelines is different than what Spotify is under. I'm sure because they're under the digital audio probably guideline spec, which is slightly different than the podcast guideline spec. I would imagine it's less. Yeah.
One thing that is a bit of a concern for me, we've got a whole bunch of new players jumping in this space that are doing measurement. And I'm feeling every 2-3 days, I get an email from someone that's running on us, running on maybe PodTrack, and running and even on a third measurement system. And they're like, they come back to me and they're I'm being the one that's getting shotgun in the face saying my numbers are higher over here on this system.
Of course.
And why aren't, and because I'm processing your hosted log file data. This is the gold standard. You're on it. You're using a redirect. There's stuff that they, so now, I've got all these companies that are asking us to implement, allow us to run their redirect in our plugin. Right. And I'm basically saying, okay, I need to know, number one, what your plan is for IAB certification, all these things. What is your uptime? What is, because a redirect can, if a redirect goes down, they don't know that it's the redirect from company B. And the first place they come is to me and they say, my media is offline. What the hell are you doing? What's wrong? And I go and look at them like, it's because the third party company that you're using to put a redirect in is offline. So, I'm going to have to start requiring service level agreements on, making sure they maintain uptime, who their person to talk to. So we've got all these people coming into space, which is competition is good. Don't get me wrong, but they also don't have, they're not running, 150 million redirects or 200 or 250 million redirects a month through their system. And they have no idea what type of scale that requires and what type of infrastructure our system is set up that we've tested it. And the time I go click and I turn the server off, 7 seconds, I'm back online. 7 seconds but I wanted to keep it under 10 because if I'm off more than 10, how many files are not getting delivered because I had a hardware failure? And so
lots, probably
a lot. When you're dealing with millions, you have to have this very, very short window. And one of the companies came back to me and said, "Oh, we get a server notification with an email," and I'm like, "Okay, so what if you're asleep? It could be hours." So we've had to set up multi. This redirect can never go down. So I have layers of redundancy on the redirect. If a nuclear war would almost tomorrow we'll have a failure. Nothing is perfect. Tomorrow we'll have a failure. I'm talking all this, but you just I had to have, and I said, okay, I've thrown all these contingencies out there. What happens if this data center goes down? And how fast can I get a data center on the West Coast spun up? And what it really is I've got servers sitting there at idle, that are waiting for a trigger. They're waiting for a trigger, and they come up on full power. So it's and I ask these questions of these companies, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to put my hosting and my customers at risk by, white labeling your redirect until you can promise me that you're not going to cause problems. So, and then of course, then I get all kinds of hate messages back. But
because you're the one that's going to get the support call,
right? I'm the one that's going to get the shotgun to the face,
right?
Yeah,
right.
And people, and people don't understand that. Well, these new entries don't understand that. So, and then not only that, then we have to deal with, well, my numbers are higher over here than this, then I'm having to go. So I'm just basically telling these clients now, and it's because of PowerPress. I'm just telling these clients now, if you really want to do a deal with us, something where you want us to white label your redirect, then you're going to have something in writing to me that you're going through IB cert. And
right.
Because I don't want to play, I don't want to have to be in defense mode of someone that's come new and they've got a new way of counting, so it's a whole, it's all these things I never thought would happen that are. Well, I should have expected it, but
yeah, what can happen will eventually
that's
happen.
A fact. and then I'm also telling another guy, I'm saying, hey, there is a redirect limit, depending what's happening on the CDN part. We're lucky that it's just boom, you're in for our stuff. You don't have to worry. It's there's no additional hops. But some of these hosting providers they're routing their how that media is going to get delivered based upon a level of service they have. So there's some providers that send traffic over this server because they're a low end client and the media download is crawls. And if they're a different type of level, it comes in onto a different level of content. So they're trying to save costs based upon the level of service.
That's a common thing in the world of CDNs, right? It's first level bandwidth, second level bandwidth. There's and that's all based on response times of the routers and how much bandwidth that you're tapping into, and you pay a little higher premium for a faster router connection and prioritize traffic, and that's a common thing. I think we've seen some of the hosts that have tested. Daniel J. Lewis did that study, right, to test on how fast the podcast hosts are, and that's what you're seeing happen. Is that those are cost savings moves by the part of the hosts. Is that there is a lower cost for having a slower network.
And so what happens is if a person has 1, 2, 3 redirects in their media file already, media URL, and they send it over to hosts and they redirect it 3 more times, you continue to raise the bar of potential for failure. It just takes one.
And latency, right?
Yeah.
The response time that your listeners have to get access to the content is increased.
So, I get shot.
Which is a delay.
I get shotgun in the face because someone wants to use the brightest, newest widget, but, I have to tell them you have to be patient because I'm in the long, I understand you want to try this new widget, but at the same time, I'm trying to protect you as well because I can't go through this conversation with every client that's got, so it's.
And each of these new companies that starts up trying to do something new and everybody jumps on board thinking it's cool.
Yeah.
You don't always know that it's going to work well.
And not only that, I don't know their GPDR. I don't know what they're doing with the IP data, all this other stuff that goes along with I'm routing traffic through them. Right. So what are they doing with my customers' IP data?
Right.
It's their data. But most of the customers don't even probably think about that.
Right.
They don't ask. They're not the average Joe podcaster is not asking the new service that they're starting off. Are you GPDR compliant? Are you CCPA compliant? Are you all these other things that we have to deal with? And are you using some sort of IP tracking that comes back to a third-party service and you're not anonymizing? It's getting real it's getting real. There's complications here I thought we would never see.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's true.
And all the podcaster cares, but make sure my media gets delivered. Make sure that when people click play or subscribe, their media gets downloaded or whatever. That's all they care about. And when I'm the tool provider, I get blasted being the tool provider, and I get blasted being the hosting provider. But sometimes it's not my fault.
Yeah, it's not.
So
probably most of the time it's not your fault.
So now we're starting to think about, okay, do we use some sort of pinging service to make sure that those services are online? And if they are, if they go offline, in order to protect myself, do I pull their redirect out and then continue to serve their media? So we're looking at that, and that's, what overhead do I have to add? And people wonder, well, okay, why do you charge for hosting?
Yeah. Well, you're trying to protect your customers, and you're also trying to protect, yourself from having just a crazy amount of support issues. Yeah, because that costs money as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, I don't want to sound like I'm whining here, but if you're a new service in the space and you're listening to this show, you need to be thinking about all this stuff. And if you're not, when you get my email, you're going to say, I have to comply with that.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. It's a simple conversation at that point. Yeah.
So, there's ways around everything, but
Yeah. Yep.
It's just it's just an ongoing interesting time in the space. It's just from a whole multitude of levels, and I'm also I hate to try to temper anyone. I got a call, real enthusiastic gal, and I'm really excited to be able to work with her. But she's thinking she's going to grow to 500 shows, and I'm like, okay, you've got this many right now. Let's get to 20, and then 25, and 50, and yes, we can help you grow. We want you to get to 500. I'm excited if you're thinking that big. Well, it is exciting, but at the same time, you're trying to also, you're answering questions for them that are, a year down the road. And I'm like, you don't have to worry. We can scale. This is what we do. So.
Yeah. So Todd, did you see the report that came out from Nielsen talking about the current state of radio and the question of, is podcasting replacing radio?
So I didn't read it, but I kind of heard a little bit about it.
I mean, it's not a big surprise. I mean, I think the data has been showing over the last few years that podcasting has been additive to the audio space, not necessarily a direct replacement. And I think this continues this trend. I think the numbers that I've seen over the last couple of years were, like 93% of the U.S. market or something like that is still listening to radio on some sort of a frequency basis. I'm not sure if that was weekly or monthly.
They changed it to monthly. It used to be weekly, and they changed that number to monthly. And people need to read between the lines on that.
Right, which could give you an indication that if you look at the weekly numbers, it could be a lot lower than what we're saying.
Yeah.
But it says 90% of podcast listeners also listen to radio every week.
Every week.
So every week. But, I think we all have to keep in mind, where most people listen to radio. It's in the car. And that's going to change over time. It's been slow to change because how often do you buy a new car to get CarPlay or get Android Auto in your vehicle, and you start listening to other types of sources of audio?
Yeah.
This, I think we're seeing a reduction. They're saying that it's not replacing radio because of a 90% number, but I don't, 90%, I mean, that is a pretty high number.
It's a really high number, but I'm just, okay. So do you have, or anyone that listens to the show that has kids,
right?
When, as soon as they get a smartphone, until just do they listen? They don't listen to the radio no more. I have Apple Music Family Plan. I've got, I've got Spotify. We've got Pandora. So
it does kind of fly in the face of a little bit of common sense. I mean, if you think about it from a generational perspective,
right.
I mean, it doesn't entirely make sense, but there's still a lot of cars out there that have the radio in there.
True.
And that's probably what we're seeing here. The question that they don't answer in here is how much are they listening to radio?
Yeah.
And what counts as listening to radio?
So when have I recently, when I was in Hawaii, what I turned the radio on for, I'd have Waze up and I would see red. And I would turn the radio on and I would try to figure out, if I couldn't squeeze in far enough on Waze or figure out what was going on, I would turn the radio on to figure out what the status of a clearing of a wreck was on the highway.
Right.
That was the only thing I used the radio for. Then I would immediately go back to Bluetooth and continue my podcast listening. So if they asked me, did you listen to radio in the last week? If I was living in Hawaii, I would say, yes, I have. But I listened for, 10 minutes until I got the next traffic update and I bounced out. Now, some people are going to listen to radio more, and I, in my commutes now, 9, 10, 11 minutes when I'm here in Michigan or 3 minutes when I'm in Columbus, I don't listen. It's on Bluetooth.
Yeah.
I have listened a little bit of Howard Stern, so I'll make a little confession there. I have listened a little of him, so I guess that's radio.
Yeah. I guess it just takes, listening to radio for just a couple minutes to count here, right?
But doesn't
mean that you're listening to very much of it, or even that you're even paying attention to it. Radio's just playing in the background.
They can say everything they're going to say, and I will remain optimistic that radio is not going anywhere anytime soon. They got a good amount of time left, but it's not.
Well, I agree with
it's
that.
not. It's not. Totally. I don't believe it's infinite.
Yeah,
I really don't think so. But I don't think podcasts are set up to replace radio yet. There's not enough local. Nothing that's consistent. There's no way that someone's going to do morning drive with their podcast 5 days a week.
Right.
And they're going to have to live stream anyway. They're not going to be doing a podcast. They're going to be doing something live. So,
right.
But I think the days of people listening to radio for hours and hours and hours and hours is long over. I go into a dentist's office. They've got some IP-based thing running, some, it's not even iHeart. It's some jazz station on, on what's that old streaming service called, like radio.com or not old, but radio.com or something like that. It's one of those channels.
Or TuneIn or something like that.
Right.
But, I mean, one thing that isn't really talked about here is the difference between radio and podcasting around content, right? And that's they're counting music streaming station or music radio stations in this number, right? What we're talking about on podcasting is talk, right?
Right.
And really, if you're going to compare apples to apples here to talk about adoption of radio versus podcasting, you need to talk about talk content on radio versus podcasting, not include music in that metric as a comparison with podcasting, because podcasting isn't about music.
Well, if you look at talk, most of it's conservative talk radio. Then you got NPR and some others.
Right. So it's got a different demographic too.
Right.
So,
but then I think those audiences, continue to grow. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't looked at any Rush or Hannity or any of those guys and see if their numbers are up or down or where they're at.
Yeah. I
have no clue.
But yeah, I mean these reports are kind of. It feels like anyway that they're blending together combinations of content that it's not really an apples to apples comparison.
Well, Spotify's very happy that people are listening to more talk than listening to music because it's offsetting their music bill for free.
Right. It's like giving them a discount, and they're getting people to pay, right?
Yeah.
To pay a subscription, they have to pay money to these music labels, right, to pay for the music content. So if they can get people listening to less music and more podcasts, they're going to make more money.
That's right.
That's the game that they're playing right now.
And it's
not because they're altruistic adding podcasts because they think it's a great thing.
And not only that, they're able to run ads and really kind of it causes their bill to go down because they're putting revenue on the table that they don't have to pay for anything for that, so
there's not a rev share.
Yeah, Spotify was brilliant in how they set their thing up there. We yeah, the podcasting, and people are very, very, podcasters don't care, right? They don't care where their stuff's being listened to. They're big fans of Spotify, but Spotify, wow. From my perspective, I look at it, I'm like, look what you did here. Yes, brilliant.
But this is what we're paying for, right? As a content creator, and this has been the eternal question, right, Todd, of these listening platforms. How do the listening platforms get a benefit from having podcasts? Why would they add them?
Yeah.
Well, now we're seeing, these platforms have a reason. What's the monetizable reason for Spotify having podcasts? We've just explained it, right?
Yeah.
In the past, there wasn't one.
And if you look at Spotify's strategy, they're all in. And so what's next? What's more? What are they going to bring to the market? Other people are going to start figuring this out. And one
thing I hope they don't do is keep paying people like Amy Schumer to produce a podcast.
Here's the more beautiful thing about this. We've just switched to pass-through. We're switching. You guys just switched to pass-through.
Yeah,
guess what? You're paying for that bandwidth now.
That's true. Right. I was talking to Rob Walsh about that the other day. It was like, okay, we were on a great deal with Spotify there for a while because they were hosting all of our content, right? We better get in the ad business more if we're going to be, doing all the bandwidth for Spotify now, right?
Because my bill's going to go up, whatever percentage it is, and and if we're not offsetting that, if our podcast, we're doing it for the podcasters so that the podcasters can monetize their content, change their ads out, and if they don't, I'll hey, put me back on pass through, right?
Right. Now, folks, listen. You're hearing kind of a fly on the wall scenario on this topic because this is something that we've been talking about with Spotify for a long time, but it isn't something I've talked publicly about. Is this whole bandwidth side, right? Especially as if you look at the overall numbers of what's happening with Spotify, it's been as high as 13% of our overall downloads.
So your media bill's going up 13%.
13%, right? Totally. But it also, there's a flip side to this too, right? As you grow your bandwidth consumption, your bill on a per gigabyte basis actually goes down. So you can actually, it's not necessarily a direct increase, right? I mean, unless you can negotiate your CDN bill on a regular basis based on your thresholds that you're hitting in usage.
But Rob, you and I are at a volume level where the savings we are now getting are incrementally small.
Right. I mean,
it takes
how much lower between down from a penny can you go, right?
We're at a point where we have to add petabytes, not terabytes. Right. We have to add petabytes of traffic to get an incrementally drop in our bandwidth bill. We're not at a point where we're saying, oh, we're moving another 8,000 terabytes. No, it's now, are you moving another couple of petabytes? And if you're moving a couple more petabytes, then we'll
give you a deal.
Then we'll give you a deal, right?
Right.
And
so the bottom line is, Todd, is we need more Spotifys. Is that what you're saying?
Well, whatever. It's all good. And more downloads mean more listeners, and that's all good for the space. That keeps,
it does.
And
I think we're happy to take that bill on in the bigger scheme of things, but it does cause us to change our models a little bit.
So
as it grows.
So it is what it is, and people hate when I say that at my company, but sometimes it is what it is, and you just have to live with it. But it does kind of raise an interesting point. It took us 10 years to get to this point where our bandwidth bill is where it is. But now, because bandwidth has been so commoditized, all of our competition doesn't have to take 10 years to get this pricing. They can almost get our same pricing because the CDN business has changed so much. So it makes me laugh, because I always used to think, well, it's going to take a competitor a little bit of time to catch up on pricing, because they can't get the same price because of bandwidth. But now they almost can. They can almost get the same pricing.
Yep.
We look at where we can save $3,000-$4,000 on API calls and all the other stuff. That's where I'm now looking at, not where the save money on CDN is our process. Are we making an extra ping? Are we doing something that's costing us money? Where can I optimize that?
and let's be clear. I mean, we're talking about real money here. We're not talking about tiny bits of money. So those that think that free hosting is we should all do free hosting because it doesn't.
Oh, they don't want you talking about.
It's not going to cost anything if you don't have any downloads.
Right.
Of your content.
Yeah. And it's funny you dropped off for a second. I think I said the CDN gods are not wanting you to talk about this. So, but it also at the same point is, I always tell people you've reached, you've gotten to a certain stage in your company's development when you no longer can pay your CDN bill with the credit card. That you've got to a point where your corporate card doesn't cover it anymore, and you have to use a bank transfer to pay the CDN bill.
Pay your bill every month, right?
So,
or send your firstborn. Right?
Yeah, I would love to get those points. Because putting $30,000-$40,000 on the credit card and getting those those mileage points was fantastic. And then the bank said, well, you're kind of like tapped out right now on your where you're at. And I'm like, told the CDN, can you bill us every 2 weeks? Because I like those points we were racking up.
Yeah, exactly. Just raise my credit limit. It's a simple solution. Right?
Yeah. And then the banks are seeing you come in with a whack of 35,000, and they're like, you have to tell them, hey, that's going to hit. That's a real.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
It's funny. It's funny stuff. Yeah. I mean, this topic doesn't get talked about very much at all. So,
yeah. So it's almost like, I'll show you mine if you show me yours type of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, in my background in this stuff too, I mean, it's not like I have any involvement in this at Libsyn and all, but, I was the CTO for Podcast One for a year, and I was involved in these games. And then prior to that, I owned my own server infrastructure back before podcasting started. I had co-located servers and stuff in data centers. And I had to manage those bandwidth connections and set up servers and do all that stuff myself. I got out of it in 2006.
I look at Geek News Central, a new media show, and how the infrastructure that lives on. That's $300 a month just for me, just for my little thing here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's not a lot, but that's my web bill. That's not my bandwidth bill. That's my web bill.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually a fun area, really.
Yeah,
in some
it's
ways.
fun.
I mean, I enjoyed it when I was doing it. It was a little frustrating because my server infrastructure kept getting compromised back, and that was one of the big reasons I got out of hosting other people. And I mean, I was hosting podcasts for other radio shows back before podcasting started, and was streaming them live and streaming them on demand. I mean, Todd, you and I worked together on the Tech Podcast Network to stream off of my infrastructure back then, at the beginning of all this stuff. And so that's why we're both kind of geeks when it comes to this medium, and we understand the inner workings of this stuff a lot. And I know you have really kind of dove in even at a deeper level than I have over the last few years.
Oh, no, it's me. I ask questions now because it's so deep. I don't understand. I have to ask Angelo and the team. I'm just, it's just like, It's one of those things too. I'm like, do we have all the keys for the cars? Because we have so many servers. I'm like, please tell me that isn't just with one person. That there is, if you get hit by a bus, can I still log into these 30 boxes?
Right, totally. Yeah,
it's stuff like that you have to think about. So,
yeah.
And
Very, basic stuff.
And when you also when you start subdividing or having to do it's just growth. Every company sees it is when you now have to put in like 4 or 5 servers and they're all load balanced and all that stuff too. So I'm glad I haven't had to deal with that. But if we'd had to done that in the beginning, we would have never made it. The bill would have been just
yeah.
We're lucky that the prices have come down on all this stuff.
Yeah, because I had to build my own infrastructure.
That's
back
right. You had a rack and a cage,
the early
right?
days, because there were no Lipsons around. I had to build everything from myself. So it was like, yeah.
And when I had, I have to laugh too, because before the podcasting thing, I was running a bulletin board for many years, and I thought I was big. Well, I was big man on campus. I went and I had when I was living in Maryland, there was an ISP there, and they had all kinds of crazy bandwidth, and I literally rented a closet. It was, a broom closet where I could stick some servers and plug in. I ran this, 100-foot LAN cable, and I put it in a part of the building that wasn't like, it was like overflow area for them. And I literally had servers in amongst junk. And it was because I couldn't afford to be in a regular rack.
Right.
No air conditioning in this room. I had some fans blowing in there. That's how I got it connected to high-speed internet. I was big king. I was like, woo! I was like, I'd go in that closet just to get high-speed internet. That was the days of dial-up. So yes, we have come a long way.
Yeah, I mean, my radio show that I started in '99 that I had online, it was basically a custom-built Windows box that was under a guy's desk in an office.
That's funny.
Down in Tacoma, Washington.
Well, then when
the whole show was on that one box.
So
it was just a PC.
So then what happened is when we finally got cable modems in the house, of course, the cable providers did not want you running any web servers or nothing. It was like super outlawed. Right. So I had like this. I took like 2 or 3 days to map all of the IPs for all the cable providers' admin accounts. I was looking at firewall traffic coming in and building, and I basically made a tunnel. They probably could see it, but they didn't ever shut me down. But I had web traffic going off of a box that was in my house, serving email, doing all this stuff you were not supposed to do. And I firewalled the internet service provider's machine so they couldn't see that machine. Now, all they had to do was sample the traffic on that. They could have anywhere. So I just had to be real low key, and I scheduled stuff at like hours where people weren't online for data transfers, and that run for 4 or 5 years like that. So
wow.
That wasn't the podcast stuff. That was other things I was doing before. Yeah. But now you try to run a server on in someone's on your cable modem, that thing's gonna get locked so fast, your service will be shut down.
Oh yeah. You can't do stuff like that anymore.
The tools have gotten too good,
Yeah, totally.
On their side.
Yeah, they can detect all this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
They can see it. But boy, I tell you, I worked really, really hard to make sure that because I could see those pings. They were pinging port 80, would come in, and I would, I had a firewall set up so that no, port 80 doesn't exist for you, but it does for everyone else. Now, if they were at home and would have hit ping that machine, they would have seen it. So we're really getting geeked out here.
We are getting over the top geeked out, no question about it. So anyway,
what's your? Are you done traveling?
Yeah, done pretty much until January.
Oh, good.
I mean, I may be on the East Coast in December, but we'll see on that. But it looks like January, and then from January, every month.
Yeah.
Until God knows when, right? And it's going to be stuff going on.
So I've got
CES to the iHeartRadio Awards.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
You're going to go there?
Yeah, I am going to go there. Yeah.
What'd you think of Fridland's piece on iHeart? That happened a couple of weeks more. Well, we haven't been on.
Yeah,
since.
I've already voted. So I already voted on
their nominations, right?
Right, I did. Yeah, I didn't get any input or choice in the
list
in the nominations.
Right.
No. Right. It was all picked from this list of eight or nine programs for winning the award. Right.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So here's my dealio. My schedule's still going to be nuts. So we're going to have to work around and figure out when we're going to do the show. I'm flying back Black Friday, and I don't get in until the morning of Saturday, the 30th. So if we want to do a show next week, we're going to have to do it on Sunday. We'll have to do it Sunday, December 1st.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm definitely not going to be available the 7th of December. Just not. That will not be able, but I should be good the rest of the way through the rest of the year. So I think, and I don't leave for Vegas. Well, I leave for Vegas January 4th for CES, but we should be able to.
I may not be available on the 14th. I'm not sure.
Okay. So we can play around with dates a little bit, maybe even do one in the week if we have to, but that whole week, I'm going to be on the move quite a little bit. So we'll see what happens here over the next month. But that's just, I feel like ping pong ball, Rob.
Oh, I do too. That's what I've felt like here, and it's going to be back doing that again here more so in January and February and then March.
Besides CES, what other events are going on in January? I don't think there's.
Well, I'm going to be in LA for the iHeartRadio Awards.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be down there for that, and then the Consumer Electronics Show. There's going to be panels and things going on down there as part of the Digital Hollywood.
Right.
Thing. So, and then there's a Podcast Awards dinner that's going on at CES down there as well.
Yep. I'll be in Vegas for the whole time for CES with the Tech Podcast team.
Oh, you are going to be down there?
Yeah. Okay. So awesome. Scott Ertz from F5 Live is running the whole I just have to show up and be talent. It's a beautiful thing. I just arrive and sit down and do my 2 hours or 3 hours a day. And I think because of my time cycles, that's all I'm going to do because I'm going to have to work the rest of the time.
Right.
But, and then in February, February's a busy month. So yeah, there's lots of stuff happening. It's just amazing how much podcast stuff is going on.
So you've already booked your hotel and stuff for CES?
I need to do, for CES. Oh yeah, I booked that in June.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. If you're not booked a room now, you're not getting where you want to stay.
Okay.
So you better book. Yeah. You better book today.
Like today, right? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm back downtown again. So I'm back
in Old Town.
I'm back in Old Town. Yep, Fremont Street. So very happy to be down there. And I'm going to try not to use a rental car this time. I'm going to try to do everything on Uber and Lyft, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that, and it works pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll probably stay up there with you. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Be good.
We'll see.
It's the D or any of those places down there are good. So that's where I stayed last year. I'm saying that I'm in at the Plaza again. It's just a bed.
It is a bed. You're going to spend a lot of time there anyway.
It's just a bed. You're going to get in there at 10 o'clock, face plant, and leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it is just a bed. So, all right. I think we'll get off in here. Glenn, thanks. Harinder, hello. We're talking about the Consumer Electronics Show right now. Oh yeah, Glenn, still doing the Tech Geek News Central show and still doing stuff at CES. And by the way, Rob, Shoko got herself a new EV car. Well, she bought a used one. She bought a 2016 Ford Focus EV.
Oh.
And she went to the DMV. I posted this on Facebook, but I think it's hilarious. She went to the DMV and got a license plate. And I kid you not, It's EV666D.
Oh no.
That was a plate she actually was issued. EV666D. She didn't know the connotations of 666, and we all were laughing at her because she sent the picture and everything, and I'm like, do you know what 666 means? And she's kind of religious, so she took the plate back and got a different one. But can you imagine having gotten a plate evil 666D?
Yeah.
Some folks would
they
love
should
to
just
have
not offer that license plate.
Some folks would love to have that plate just for the reaction factor, but
That's funny.
It is funny. So, all right, anyone, thank you so much, and we'll see you back here. Is it next? Yeah, we'll be back. I gotta look. We'll be back probably on Sunday of next week. So if you're back from your Turkey Day,
on the 1st.
On the 1st, yeah, because I don't get in.
December.
There's just no way that I'm going on the 1st. So we'll see you on the 1st. But everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the New Media Show. Hey, we're still doing the sticker exchange. So send us a sticker, and we'll send you a sticker. The address is in the show notes. We've sent out some packages. Actually, I've got some wire wraps for you, Rob, from podcast in Spain.
Oh,
so
okay.
But we'll send you some cool stickers, including one that's like this, the New Media Show sticker. Those were pretty hot. Those went hot at Digital Hollywood. So if we've got some Digital Hollywood folks, make sure you say hello to us as well. Send us an email. I'm Todd at Blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter at Rob Greenlee, and that's spelled with 2 E's. And then I can be reached in email, robg@libsyn.com, and send them on through.
So we want to thank you for being part of the our family, our show family, and then we'll be back with you next week, probably on Sunday. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.